Hey everyone, this is Alexander with Taco Street Locating, and this is my guide on South Austin. So, if you find this guide useful and you are looking for an apartment in South Austin, please reach out to me on my website, tacostreetlocating.com. I've been doing this for 8 years. I know all of these buildings pretty well, and I'm completely free to work with. So, that being said, I'm going to focus on helping you understand South Austin, primarily the 78704 neighborhood, along with East Riverside here. So, by the end of this video, you're going to have a much better understanding of these South Austin neighborhoods, why you should consider them, which buildings you should consider, along with my personal opinion on South Austin. So, that being said, let's get started. So, most of my clients that are moving from out of town are usually focused on downtown Austin, and a lot of them want the want to be in the urban core of Austin, but they don't want to pay downtown Austin prices. So, in those cases, most of them are going to consider the neighborhoods just around downtown, specifically South Austin and East Austin, which is the best comparison neighborhood. So, with South Austin, I would say that South Austin represents what Austin is in terms of what people imagine in their mind's eye when they imagine Austin. They're thinking of places like Zilker over here, Barton Springs over here, South Congress over here. And for those reasons, it's a really important neighborhood in Austin. For my personal opinion, comparing East Austin and South Austin, I personally like East Austin a lot more. I think South Austin is a better neighborhood for the nice single family home experience, whereas I think the apartment market is better in East Austin. That being said, South Austin does have a lot of modern apartments to choose from. So let's dive into the different parts of South Austin so you can better understand them. And we'll start here on South Congress, which is the most popular or famous street in South Austin because it's the biggest, largely tourist zone. We have all these shops, boot stores, restaurants, and there's a lot happening here on South Congress, especially this core. And I kind of dropped the hints of like what this neighborhood, like what this area is. It is largely a touristy area, which is why I mostly don't like it as a residential experience because you just have mostly people coming in from out of town, shopping along these streets. And while it is nice and there are good restaurants, there is good food, there are good bars, there is the Continental Club, and there is some great stuff on South Congress. That being said, the experience is largely a tourist experience, and for people wanting a more local experience, I think there are better options. That being said, there are three main buildings to talk about here, directly on South Congress, being the Lola and the Muse. These are both older buildings built in the 90s, and although they have gone through a lot of renovations, they do feel pretty dated, and the prices you pay here are comparable to what you would pay at a much newer and nicer building or buildings. Uh, but they do both have nice pools, nice amenities, nice gyms, and they are in the most walkable part of South Congress. And it is right along Equinox. So, people who want like that really high end experience for a gym, living here could make sense. But and one of the main reasons to consider both of these buildings is that they have 3 bedroom floor plans. But other than that, I don't have a lot of clients move into either of these buildings because most of my clients do wind up wanting more of a local experience. So South Congress doesn't often win for my clients. Then we have nearby Crescent, another building that it's kind of awkwardly located because it's right along East Riverside Drive, which is a very busy street, and it's tucked in this corner of this kind of like retail strip mall that's not super interesting, and it's a little bit farther away from the core of South Congress over here. So I don't have a lot of people that move here, but the building itself is fine, doesn't really win or lose in any categories. I think its most compelling option or reason you'd want to consider living here is their pricing, which does tend to be very competitive. But overall, it's not a very popular building with my clients. Then we have both of these, which are worth comparing together, the 422 at the lake and the Catherine. Um, the Catherine is a really beautiful high rise building with amazing views of downtown. If you can get something facing north, which will command premium pricing and will give you some amazing views of the entire city. And here you have 422 at the lake, which is a much more affordable, modern mid-rise building that does the reviews here could and should be a bit better given uh, the quality of building, given its location. For anything that's going to be on the more high end luxury, I do expect much better reviews. So that's a reason why a lot of my clients, I haven't had a lot of people move here, probably like a handful over the years. Same thing with Catherine. Well, actually, the Catherine has really great reviews. It is a great building. It's super nice. Their concierge service is great, and it does feel this. It feels like this is a like boutique hotel uh, type experience. My main issue with both of these buildings is the location. So there really isn't a lot of residential amenities in terms of like coffee shops, bars, restaurants in this immediate area. You're going to get most of that here on South Congress, whereas this location immediately outside the buildings is mostly corporate slash hotel buildings, which doesn't make it super compelling. And there's also a major construction site happening along here, right by where the Catherine is, and that may obstruct the view of a lot of the units here. So that's to be determined on how that's going to affect the Catherine specifically. And the 422 at the lake suffers from being alongside two major roads, South First here and Riverside Drive over here. So there's just a lot of traffic coming on both sides of this building, which is not ideal. But the main compelling reason for this location is you are right outside Auditorium Shores and right outside the Ladybird Lake trails. So, for that proximity and access to downtown, it could be a good option if you can get a better price than what you would get in downtown. So, then going a little west from here, we have these two buildings that are worth comparing together side by side, the coal and the cold water. So this location is going to be your Barton Springs part of Austin, which is the main compelling selling point of this location because you could walk to Zilker, walk to Barton Springs Pool, which is an amazing amenity because Barton Springs is the best thing in Austin and it's an amazing place to be. And you are right along the Colorado River, so the you can access the trails to run and bike extremely easily. And you do have a lot of restaurants and bars and food trucks and places like Casa de Luz right here, which is where all of like the kind of hippie spiritual type activities are happening in this city. It's a really cool location. It's a little weird, but weird slash cool. It works. So My main issue with this location is there's while there are some bars and restaurants in this immediate area, nothing is super compelling overall in terms of a neighborhood experience. Most of the neighborhood energy is going to be down here in Barton Hills. And this is a really beautiful neighborhood, but this is primarily a single family, very expensive neighborhood that doesn't have a lot to offer for people who live in apartment complexes. So I tend to not really like this area kind of for that reason because it just lacks a lot of it lacks a full neighborhood experience, whereas other parts of South Austin, East Austin give you a much bigger range of a neighborhood experience. So for these two buildings, the Cole is the older one, and they're known for having large floor plans. So that is the main reason this building is compelling. They have pretty large one bedrooms and two bedrooms, and it is a very walkable location. The main problem with the Cole is their amenities are not good. Their pool is tiny, their gym is tiny. So if you care about amenities at all, this is not the building for you. The Coldwater is a better building in mostly every respect. The amenities are good, the gym is good, the rooftop deck is great. The pool, I think I mentioned that. That's all the amenities are good. It is going to be more expensive than the Cole for smaller floor plans, and you do get more of a tucked in location, whereas the Cole is right along South Lamar, which is going to be pretty busy. The Coldwater is a little bit more tucked into this part of the Barton Springs neighborhood, so it is quieter and more relaxed. So if I were to choose between one or the other, I would choose the Coldwater. So I did say I was going to mostly focus on the modern apartment complexes, but I want to highlight these two buildings, which are older buildings in the Barton Hills neighborhood. So Barton Hills Apartments, it's just a standard older apartment complex, and it's not going to give you much in terms of modern amenities, but it is directly across Barton Springs Pool, which is an amazing location. So if you don't care about building quality, but you do care about being close to Barton Springs and the Greenbelt, then this is an amazing building to choose from. So then, coming over here a little bit deeper, you have the Skyline Barton Creek. I like this building a lot because it's the oldest building that I'll talk about here, and it has this part of Austin, this Spyglass, Barton's Bluff area. It gives you a really classic, preserved South Austin neighborhood experience, and it is right outside the Spyglass entrance to the Greenbelt, right over here, and Taco Deli, and that's an amazing location for a really calm, quiet, classic South Austin experience. And the pool at Skyline is really amazing. I've had a lot of fun over there in years past with friends. So for something that's going to be very cheap, affordable, and very close to Barton Springs, the Greenbelt, the Skyline is a really good option. So then moving down to South Lamar, there's one of the best buildings in South Austin is going to be the 1155 Barton Springs, and this is going to be the most high end building in South Austin, and it's an unconventional building because it's only like 100 and something units, so it's much smaller. They don't have one bedrooms; they mostly have just two and three bedrooms, which gives it a much like smaller, private, quieter community feel. It's a very mature feeling building, and the floor plans are massive, like 1,300 plus square feet, two bedrooms, and the amenities are really great. The walkability here is really good. The only issue is the train comes by here every day, which could be an issue for noise if you're noise sensitive. But overall, this is a really fantastic building that I like a lot. So then going on to South Lamar, the core of South Lamar, you have a pretty dense cluster of apartments and bars and restaurants and the Alamo Draft House. And there's a lot of great stuff along here. I will say I'm personally not a big fan of South Lamar because South Lamar is a very, very busy road. It's the busiest road in South Austin. So you will be dealing with a lot of traffic and getting in and out of your apartment complex just to get around. And that's what I think for me just makes this just not a terribly exciting neighborhood to live in because you are dealing with so much traffic just to get anywhere. That being said, there are a lot of things in the immediate area which, if you do choose to live here, there are a lot of great things, but you will be dealing with a lot of traffic here. So that being said, you have a cluster of buildings, the Windsor South Lamar. Really nice buildings, as most Windsor buildings are. But for something that's a more high end luxury boutique experience or priced like one, they should have better reviews, and they just don't. Uh, they do have a really nice dog park, which is the main selling point for pet owners here. Overall, it is very luxurious looking, but anything that's at this rating with Google reviews is kind of a no go for me. Lamar Union is, at least from the outside, the most stylish building. It's one of the most interesting aesthetic buildings in Austin. And this location is interesting because it's tucked in to this like Alamo Draft House kind of mega complex where you do have like some coffee shops and restaurants here in this immediate area. Uh, the pool is really nice. The amenities are really nice. The floor plans tend to skew a little bit smaller. And I have heard from a lot of previous residents that the walls tend to be pretty thin, so sound travels pretty easily here. So I haven't had a lot of people move really anywhere on South Lamar, but this building used to be a lot more popular when it opened up like a few years ago, but some like now not so much. Gibson Flats is one of the stronger ones in this area. It's across the street. It is on this side of South Lamar. It can feel a little claustrophobic because on one side you have South Lamar, and on the other side you have the train tracks. So you are very like sandwiched in to uh, between these two parallel roads and tracks, which is the main negative. That being said, the Gibson Flats is very nice. Their reviews are very, very good. So that's a great sign for this complex. Again, I don't have a ton of people lease here because the building doesn't really win in any major categories. And given how many buildings there are, this could work if it does fit that price to location mix. Then we have the Bolden, which is the newest building on South Lamar. And I want to like this building more, and it does have a lot of compelling things going for it. It is very nice. The rooftop deck is beautiful. The amenities, like the gym, are very good. One of its major selling points, it's right next to Lifetime Fitness, right around here. And on the ground floor, you have Paperboy, which is a really amazing breakfast and lunch spot. That being said, the Boldens, as of recording this in February 2026, their pricing is pretty absurd. They are priced like a downtown apartment complex for a building that's not in downtown. And until they figure out their pricing, it's going to be really hard to justify spending what this building is asking for. And it seems like they've been having a lot of review issues since they've opened up. So, another issue with this building is its location. Again, it's tucked in a very commercial area between South Lamar and the tracks. And on the north side, you have Lifetime Fitness, which is great for a gym, but it's terrible for review. The interior units are going to be quiet and calm and nice. I would probably get something facing interior at this building. The ones facing south face a 7-Eleven and a gas station, which is not exciting. The units facing west face South Lamar, which is busy and loud and not compelling. And the units facing east face South Austin and some greenery and have great downtown views, except those are the most expensive units. And until they bring those prices down, it's going to be hard for me to want to bring someone here. Then we have the MAA South Lamar, which is going to be of this cluster of buildings. It's going to be one of the budget picks for this area. I haven't brought a lot of people here because historically the reviews have not been very good. And while the pricing is very good and it is modern, it's been more negative than positive for the clients that I've brought. So I haven't done a lot of work there anymore. The 1515 South Lamar is like a more modern version of the MAA South Lamar. This building is really nice, great amenities, brand new, very modern, all that good stuff. Um, but like a lot of the other buildings here, just have a lot of issues with reviews. My biggest annoyance with this building is getting in and out of it. You have to. There's only one entrance on South Lamar, and you have to just deal with a lot of traffic to get in and out, and that's just not a fun, just resident experience. So then moving further south, outside of the main cluster of South Lamar, we have the Thornton Flats, which is a really interesting building because it's tucked into a residential neighborhood that gives this a different, quieter feel. And while they don't really have much in terms of amenities, it is for the context of South Lamar going to be kind of a dark horse location because it doesn't have much in terms of immediate walkability. It's going to be a really nice neighborhood to stroll around and give you great access to South Lamar without the noise of South Lamar. But you're not going to get much in terms of anything when it comes to amenities. So I haven't had anyone lease here in a while. Bell South Lamar is one of the most compelling buildings along South Lamar. The Bell is a very solid, like upper middle quality building. It's a really well balanced building. It tends to be really well priced, cheaper than these core South Lamar buildings. And a lot of these units are a little bit tucked away from direct South Lamar exposure, which is good. Their pool is great. So overall, this is going to be one of the stronger options for South Lamar. The reviews are good, which is an important thing for buildings on South Lamar. Then you have the 7704 and the Groves South Lamar. Between these three buildings, the Groves is a more like high-end luxury style building compared to the 7704, which is more moderate, middle of the road. You're going to get better pricing at the 704. The Grove South Lamar is going to be a nicer, much nicer building. They have a great dog park. So I tend to like the Groves a little bit more than the 704. That being said, both of these buildings are going to feel pretty claustrophobic with their locations because they are right along South Lamar, and there's just not a lot of like wiggle room to walk around here. That being said, it is very close to the entrance to one of the entrances of the green belt, so your access to nature from these buildings is very good. Uh, and one functional benefit of being further down south on South Lamar is being closer to the highway to get to West Austin, to different parts of Austin. So that could be a compelling reason to be further down on South Lamar. So now we can move to uh, South First, which is my personal favorite part of South Austin that runs all the way down here. And there aren't a lot of apartments immediately on South First, but this stretch of bars and restaurants is one of my favorite parts of Austin because it's a lot quieter and calmer and more of a cozy neighborhood feel, much more than South Congress and much quieter than South Lamar. So if I were to be in South Austin, I would prioritize being closer to South First. So you have this cluster of buildings going between uh, this. You have the Silver Creek, which is an older building, and I wouldn't normally profile something older, but the pricing and location here can make this very compelling. Although you are dealing with a building that doesn't have great reviews, so then further south, uh, you have the Tree Apartments, which pairs well. It's another modern building that pairs well with buildings like the Bell South Lamar and the Grove South Lamar. I like this location a lot because it is quieter and calmer than South Congress and South Lamar. Their dog park is great. They have better. It's more of an calm neighborhood experience, so that's why I like it. But that being said, uh, they're also getting hit with not so great reviews. So because I don't have a lot of people that choose South Austin overall, I haven't had a ton of people move to the Tree over the last few years. Same thing with the Debut and the District SoCo. The District is going to be a very affordable option for South Lamar, but this location is a very commercial area. It's right across from HEB, but it's also just tucked into this strip mall here, which doesn't make it a very compelling, like aesthetic living experience. Kind of the same thing with the Debut SoCo. The reviews are pretty good. It's going to be a nicer, uh, it's a better managed company than the Tree. However, this location is just more commercial than residential. So I don't really like this location, and I haven't had a lot of people move here. So we can move. I don't have anyone moving here. I'll just skip that one. So that covers South Austin. And now we can move on to East and Riverside. And I actually have a lot more people move to East Riverside than I do have moved to South Austin because while the majority of the East Riverside area isn't the best, like along Old Torf, Montopolis, overall is just not a very compelling neighborhood because it's just still over it's still up and coming. We'll just leave it at that. um, this strip of buildings along East Riverside is actually, in my opinion, a very compelling area to live because this strip is right along Lady Bird Lake, and compared to most of the other buildings in South Austin, these are going to be very competitively priced. And this area is going to be very quiet. At least the area right along the river is going to be very quiet. And you do have enough uh, restaurants and food trucks and coffee shops that does make this a very reasonable neighborhood living experience. And In terms of like strategic location, this is very convenient because it's extremely easy from Riverside to get to downtown, to East Austin, to South Austin, to the airport. Uh, so while this neighborhood, I wouldn't say it's the best neighborhood in overall compared to South or East Austin, the pricing, the proximity to everywhere else in Austin, and the quality of these buildings make this a very compelling area to pick if you want to be close to the trail. So, first we have the Berkshire Riverview, which is um, they tend to have really good pricing and really big floor plans, and it has some of the best access to the river trails, which is uh, the main reason I've had a lot of people move here. That being said, it does have a lot of noise from 35 and Riverside Drive. So the units here that face west or south are not going to have good views. That being said, there are a lot of options that have really nice downtown views, so that can make this very compelling. So, another kind of negative with this location is all of the restaurants and coffee shops are going to be over here, whereas here there's nothing. So you have to walk all the way here to where like the Ambly South Shore is. So of all these buildings, the Ambly South Shore is my most popular because it tends to it, most Amly buildings are really good at knowing where they are in the market in terms of pricing and competitiveness, and they tend to be really good values overall. The management, 4.0 stars, which is pretty good. Uh, and some of the units do have act like direct exposure to East Riverside Drive, which is not ideal. But there are another cluster of buildings right here that give you more cozy, quiet exposure, especially the newer building 6 and building 7 put you right alongside the river with great views. This is going to be more expensive, but the new amenity deck and rooftop lounge at this new part of the complex is super nice, and I like this one a lot. So I've had a lot of people move to Ambly South Shore. Now we have the another cluster, the Bell South Shore, and I'll talk about these two afterwards. But for like the mid range of buildings, the Azul, the Lakeshore Pearl, and there's another one here, the Bell Lakeshore around here that I never take people to because the reviews are really awful. So that one kind of doesn't exist to me anymore. That being said, you have the Lakeshore Pearl and the Azul. The Azul is really nice, but I'm pretty sure Oracle owns this building because the Oracle headquarters is right here, and most of these units are going to be occupied by Oracle employees. So there's rarely even availability other for people other than Oracle employees. So I almost never have people moving here. Lakeshore Pearl going to be very affordable, very kind of middle of the road. There's nothing about it that makes it win or lose, but the pricing tends to be pretty good here. Then the Bell South Shore, I would say, is my second most popular building here because of the pricing, the proximity to the river. It doesn't have nearly as much exposure to East Riverside Drive that other buildings do. The pricing tends to be great. So I've had a lot of people move here. They have a really fantastic community gym that I like a lot. So then moving on to these two, these are going to be the nicest luxury buildings in East Riverside, the Marlowe and the Encore, which in the process of opening up as I record this. They are owned and managed by the same company. And both of these, the Marlowe, it has A really beautiful rooftop pool, rooftop deck that overlooks downtown and Lady Bird Lake. Encore is going to have the same thing. And these are going to be the best buildings in terms of a luxury experience for this location because it's the farthest away from Riverside Drive. So it's going to be the quietest and the calmest. In South Lakeshore Boulevard, it's not a very busy road, so you're not going to get a ton of noise from traffic. And the units here that face the river are going to be some of the best views in South Austin. So if you can get something that faces the river here, that's going to be ideal. Both of these also have a lot of interior courtyard facing units that are less than ideal if you're going to be paying a premium rate. So we'll see how the Encore pans out. But right now, for in terms of amenities, both of them are going to be fantastic. Both of them are going to have some of the best co-working rooftop amenity spaces. So for the high-end luxury part of East Riverside, these two are going to be the best. Then wrapping up, there's two buildings that are basically the same thing, Lexington Riverside and Lexington River Crest, which are on the other side of East Riverside Drive, which is the main negative of these buildings is their location. It's going to be flanked by East Riverside Drive on one side, and this part of East Riverside, which they're not the nicest apartments, and it is going to feel like a little bit more of a lower end experience just in terms of this like immediate proximity. That being said, it's still very close to the river. There's a lot of great units with great downtown views to choose from. So, if the pricing is great and you can get a great unit facing downtown, then I think these buildings could be very compelling. So, that just about wraps up the my guide on South Austin. If you found this useful, please hit me up on my website, tacostreetlocating.com, so I can help you find your next apartment in Austin. See ya.